Good morning, viewers. Welcome to our regular Straight Talk with the Daily Tribune. We are glad to have as our guest today PSE President and CEO Ramon Monzon. He's an industry leader and the founder of Carousel Productions. He's been with the local boards for the past 3 years. So, Mr. Monzon, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me here. Good afternoon.
He's presenting a slide presentation regarding the market. What are the moving forces behind the bourse? So we'll let the President, CEO of PSE to take over.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to present some background on the stock market. Very, very quick highlights for those who might not be familiar with the operations of the stock market. So we'll give you a background, the developments in the market, and what the plans are. Years. So to begin with, let's look at the history of the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay. So let's do the year in review. Let's go to the overview of the PSE, Tabitha. There. What is the Philippine Stock Exchange? The Philippine Stock Exchange was a combination of the Manila Stock Exchange, which was organized in 1927, and the Makati Stock Exchange, which was organized in 1985. In 1992, there was a move to unify both the Manila and Makati Stock Exchange, and this became what is now known as the Philippine Stock Exchange, or PSE. PSE is a professionally managed company starting in 1993. Prior to being professionally managed, these were managed by the brokers who were the owners of the Manila and Makati Stock Exchange. It is also a publicly listed company, and it's the only equities exchange in the Philippines. We are also a self-regulatory organization. That means we have been given approval by the SEC to come up with rules and to enforce those rules as far as the capital market is concerned. Right now, we have 268 listed companies, and we have 130 active stockbrokers. Okay. For 2019, we measured the performance of the Philippine Stock Exchange with what we call the PSE Index. The PSE Index is a composition of 30 of the biggest stocks with the highest number of trading and the highest number of public ownership. So we call this the PSE Index. Like all other exchanges in the world, each one has their own particular index. You will have a Japan index, a Korea index. Here we have a Philippine index. So for 2019, Dapira, can we go to the previous slide? For 2019, the PSEi closed at 7815.26 points, or 7,815.26 points. That is up 4.7% from the previous close in December 31, 2018. The highest that the Philippine Stock Exchange has ever reached in terms of the index is 9,058.62, which was reached in last January 29, 2018. How did the Philippine Stock Exchange perform in 2019 compared to its regional neighbors? Among the ASEAN exchanges, you will see that the Philippines had the third highest return, third only to Vietnam, which had an increase of 7.7%, and to Singapore, which had an increase of 5.0%. The Philippine Stock Exchange increased by 4.7% from the year ago level. Okay. Here are some important stock market indicators. The total market capitalization of all the listed stocks in the Philippines as of December 31, 2019. I don't know why the numbers in the slides. What happened? I don't know what happened to the numbers in the slides. Something happened in the number slides, but I have a copy of here. So the market value of all the listed stocks in the Philippine Stock Exchange was 16.71 trillion pesos in 2019, which is higher than the 16.15 trillion we had in 2018. Our average daily trading volume for 2019 is 7.29 billion, which is higher than 2018's average trading volume of 7.15 billion. Okay. Another important metrics that we look at the PSE is how much capital is raised at the PSE by the listed companies. Here, in 2018, the capital raised in the PSE was 187.84 billion. And yet for 2019, this went down substantially to 95.25 billion. So you might ask, what happened? Why did why were the listed companies not raising capital during 2019? Okay. The reason for this big drop in the capital raise of the Philippine Stock Exchange is that in 2019, the interest rates in the Philippines was very low, inflation was very low, and the BSP had this program to reduce the reserves of banks. So there was a lot of liquidity in the market. So a lot of the companies, instead of raising capital in the Philippine Stock Exchange, raised capital by issuing bonds, because it became a cheaper source of capital. So you will see that we dropped from 187.84 billion to 95 billion. So it's about a drop of 92 billion in capital raising. Yet in the Philippines, in the fixed income exchange, where the bonds are traded, you will see that the capital raise at the fixed income exchange increased from 256 billion in 2018 to 376 billion, 120 billion increase. So that's where all the capital raising, most of the capital raising was done at the fixed income because of the lower interest rates and the liquidity in the market. Okay, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the important metrics also that we monitor at the Philippine Stock Exchange is the foreign buying and selling levels. The Philippine Stock Exchange, the volume in the PSE is really composed of 50% local investors, 50% foreign investors. Yeah. So we monitor the foreign trading very, very closely. In 2019, we had a net selling of foreign investors of 14.26 billion. Our next slide, we just wanted to show you the growth of the stock market accounts in the PSE. You will see that from 2008 to 2018, we had an overall market increase of 10.5% compounded annual growth rate. Okay, such that from 444,000 investors in 2008, we now have 1,089,000 local retail investors in 2018. A big chunk of the increase in the number of investors are really investors that have online accounts, meaning they do online trading in their own computer. They don't call up a broker anymore to order, to buy, or to sell.
What is the percentage now of online?
Online now is probably about 65 to 70% of total market investors.
So huge
Again,
portion.
that's part of the digitalization, I guess, of of the economy.
And how much did they add to the total?
Well, you will see increase in volume, like I mentioned earlier,
Sa huge percentage.
yes.
75% na pala on board.
Well, like we increased volume from 7.15 to 7.29 from 2018 to 2019. No, for 2020 we're projecting hopefully an average trading volume of about 7.6. So we expect the online investors to carry this load. Okay, so that's how many investors we have right now. What products and services do we have at PSE that investors can invest in? Okay. We have what we call a securities borrowing and lending for failed settlement. What does this mean? One broker can have an agreement with another broker for securities borrowing, so that if one broker cannot meet its settlement, obligations, it can borrow securities from another broker. Yes. We have what we call an exchange traded fund. An exchange traded fund is a fund that simulates the index. Okay, so if you buy one share of an exchange traded fund, you are really buying one share of the index
basket.
So the exchange traded fund, if the PSE index goes up 10%, that exchange traded fund will go up equally by 10%. If it goes down by 5%, the ETF will also go down by 5%. We have a Sharia compliant securities. We hire a Muslim organization that do this accreditation of companies in the exchange that are compliant with Sharia principles, and and then we compile this list so that Muslim investors can have a portfolio of stocks that they can invest in. Okay. We have a dollar-denominated securities, meaning, for example, a local company's operations are in US dollars, so they can issue securities, preferred shares, or bonds in US dollars instead of Philippine peso. We have special listing rules for oil and renewable companies, meaning the rules for listing of oil and energy renewable companies is less strict or much more lax than for a regular company. And the reason for this is we'd like to encourage more of the oil and renewable companies to list at the exchange. We also have a special accommodation for PPP companies, meaning the public-private company, public-private partnership companies that have projects. They can list their projects with us with less, I guess, requirements than an ordinary company. Okay. What do we need? What are we planning to have for PSE in terms of product offerings? Real estate investment trust, and I'm very happy to report that yesterday the Secretary of Finance Carlos G. Dominguez, the Chairman Emil Aquino of SEC, and Commissioner Billy Dulay of BIR, and myself, we signed the final revised listing rules, implementing rules and regulations, and revenue regulations for the launch of the Real Estate Investment Trust, or REITs as we call it. So as of today, I would like to say the PSE is open for the listing of the first REIT product in the Philippines. We're also working on getting short selling approved. I will discuss each one of these in detail later on. Index futures, new indices, and new sector classification structure. So I said, what is a REIT? Republic Act 9856 defines a REIT as a stock corporation principally for the purpose of owning income-generating real estate assets. Okay, I'm focusing on the REITs because I think this will be a very big product for the Philippine market. Okay. What are the benefits of the REITs to the capital market? Number one, you have a new and attractive asset class, accessible both to retail and institutional investors, both local and foreign. It makes our exchange competitive with the other exchanges like Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, who have had REITs for a long time. Okay. And of course, it's important to have more investment products in PSE for investors, both foreign and local, to stimulate trading and get more trading volume. What's the benefit to the investor of a REIT? 90% of the income of the REIT must be distributed annually as cash dividends. Okay. I think, in general, if you go through the list of listed companies, I think, in general, well, they have different policies for dividend or different dividend policies. Maybe some listed companies will say we will declare 30% of our income as dividends. Some will say 50%, but it's on the REITs go all the way up to 90%. Okay. It also gives an individual investor an opportunity to own equity interest in income-producing real estate. Of course, like you and I, we probably cannot afford to buy a mall, but you can own a REIT that owns a mall. So we're able to participate in the earnings of that mall through the REITs.
So democratization of
Yes,
ownership.
it's a democratization of ownership of real estate, basically. What are the listed REIT benefits for the company? Why would the company go on a REIT? Well, it will give them ready access to capital. No, it will make the price discovery more efficient through market transactions. They get to know the actual real value of their company because it's being traded by the market. Of course, they have liquidity benefits. Anytime they want to sell shares, they can sell shares. They want to buy, they can buy. Plus, the standard advantages of listed companies, it gives them a marketing advantage and seal of good housekeeping being a listed company. And finally, of course, their corporate governance as a listed company becomes very much substantially improved. What is the short selling that I was mentioning earlier that we're trying to come up with? Okay, short selling guidelines, we've had this approved by the SEC on June 2018. We have some pending items before we can launch this. Hopefully, we can get this out by next month, by February. We talked to BIR Commissioner Dulay and Secretary and Chairman Aquino yesterday about the 3 pending items. We just have 3 pending items before we can launch the short selling product. What is a short selling product? Why do we want to push this? The benefits of short selling, it's really for portfolio investors. You know, I mean, institutional investors that own big portfolios in the Philippine market. It allows them to hedge their portfolio. It's a hedging mechanism. Otherwise, without short selling, everything, you have no protection against the downside because you just keep buying and buying. But for you to be able to sell, you just have to wait for the prices to drop. With the short selling, if you believe that the market's level is not up to your, I guess, risk assessment, you can start to sell the shares or engage in short selling, even though the price of the share is still high. Okay. So it's really more for hedging, to hedge one's portfolio, which the foreign investors have been clamoring for a long time. We're the only one in the ASEAN market that has no short selling. So finally, we will be able to launch it this year.
Essentially, it's an escape mechanism.
It allows you to sell shares that you don't own.
Because essentially, that's what it is.
Right. Gives you an advance escape, as you say.
So yeah, you take a position prior to that.
Yeah. Because how do you make money? I mean, for example, the price of a stock is at 1 peso now. You think that price is very high and you think it should only be 80 centavos. So what do? You sell it short at 1 peso. So you get the 1 peso. Okay. Because you think it's going to go down, let's say, to 80. When it goes down to 80, you buy it back. No? So you paid 80 centavos, but you got 1 peso.
Got 1 peso, right.
That's what short selling is. But it could go the other way. You know,
could
you
move
sold
up.
at 1 peso. If it goes up to 150,
You lose.
well, now you have to buy at 150 to replace what you borrowed. No? So that's more for speculation, but for portfolio investors, they have a way to really
Safeguard.
sophisticate they are very sophisticated in analyzing, when they should short and when they should not.
Short selling is allowed principally for
For everybody,
not just the
not just foreign
the
investors.
the
Yeah,
fund managers.
even you, even I could short sell if we believe that the price is very high. We can go to our broker and say, I'd like to sell short
If you're
XY.
if you trade online, how do you do that?
You have to make arrangement with your broker.
With the broker.
You'll have to probably give a collateral amount.
Uh-huh.
Because when you sell short, your broker will have to make sure that if the price goes up, that you have money to cover it, to buy it back. Because when you sell short, you still have to return those shares. You're just borrowing shares.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that's for short selling. One of the most important developments we did, for our financial inclusion advocacy, when a company issues an IPO, 10% of that IPO is allocated to the local small investor. Called local small investors like you, like me, a local. So all companies must set aside 10% for the local small investors. So even the small investors get a chance to participate in IPOs. Prior to our launching PSEi, for a local small investor to be able to participate in IPO, he would have to go to a kiosk. We had 3 IPO kiosks before. We had one in Quezon City, one in Makati, and one in Manila, and the PSE office. The local small investor will go to one of these kiosks, ask for an application form, give an ID, get an application form, fill it up, bring that application form to a broker, so that the broker can note on that application form that yes, Juan de la Cruz has an account with me, and then the investor now brings this back again to the kiosk and then makes a payment. And all he could do was invest 25,000. That was the maximum. So too much trouble, too much hassle for 25,000. So the first thing we did was increase the limit to 100,000. And second, we came up with this subscription platform, which is purely digital. We call it PSEi, or PSE Electronic Allocation System. What happens here? For example, you today, after we talk, can go to that website, open an account. Okay, but it's important you have a broker's account already, a stockbroker's account. You will open an account online. You will indicate who your broker is. Your application will be sent to the broker electronically. The broker now will acknowledge that you have an account to them. Will reply back to the system that yes, Juan de la Cruz has an account with us, and then you get a confirmation. You now have an account with PSE. Easy.
Okay.
Every time an IPO comes, you will get a notice. There's an IPO of ABC company. Would you like to invest? You just click now. Oh, I want to invest. So, that all that process of going back and forth, commuting, wala na yan. Ngayon online na.
It simplifies the account.
Correct. And we saw the impact of this prior to this electronic allocation system that we launched last year. Out of the 10% that companies allocate for IPOs, ang na-utilize lang diyan, ang nagagamit lang diyan mga 1.8, 1.9%.
So underutilized, huh?
Oh, so the 8.2% goes back to the big investors. Kasi it became very tedious eh. When we launched this in June 2019, the very first IPO that we launched it with was Kep Wealth. We had a 94% take-up from 1.8 to 9.4. Almost naubos yung 10% allocation. More importantly, we saw that a lot of the investors were coming from Visayas, Mindanao. Dati puro mga Metro Manila lang eh. And even more important, we were able to see that there were investors from 17 foreign countries that were investing. So siguro yung mga OFWs. So this is a very successful, I guess, platform for, increasing the reach or the, of the stock market to investors. So that's also very, for us, a very significant initiative that we launched for our financial inclusion projects. No? Okay. We also want to leverage your technology. Like I always say, a stock exchange really is a technology company. Why? Because you need a lot of the platforms for trading, for clearing, like I just showed you earlier, the PSEi. That's also a technology platform. So we have to be always up to date on technological developments. Okay. Last year, to be able to strengthen our IT capability, I formed a joint venture with an IT company. We call it's Premier Systems Enterprise, and this particular IT company will now be responsible for developing a lot of the IT requirements of PSE. Because before we were doing this at PSE, but we were always busy with the day-to-day operations. So I felt, like what the other companies in the States or Europe do, when they need to develop something, they just outsource it. So basically now what we've done is we're outsourcing all our IT requirements and development to this particular company, which is a subsidiary of ours. We have to modernize our core systems and infrastructures, meaning we have a front-end system that we just installed in 2018. We are now investing in a new clearing and settlement system, which we hope to have in place 2 years from now. It takes about 2 years to upgrade your system to the newest technology. And then we have the eKYC and data analytics platforms, which I will go into later. Okay. So, as the PSE, like I said, it's very important for us to try to get more Filipinos interested in investing in the stock market. The reason for that is because there are so many Filipinos that are being preyed upon by these unscrupulous investment, investment companies, okay? Selling forex trading, selling cryptocurrency, or you heard about the kappa, and that's because that will show you there's a lot of money going around that's being, wasted or stolen from our Filipino. So what we're doing, it's very important to us that we try to, reach out as far as possible to entice Filipinos to invest in the stock market. So we have this PSE investor education campaign that's going, year round. No? We have a stock market 101 seminar. That's every Saturday at the exchange. It's for free. Anybody can go there and learn about the stock market. We also have an online stock market 101, which we call the webinar. We do a lot of financial literacy roadshows, meaning for example, in March, we're scheduled to go to Davao. So we go to the different provinces to talk about the stock market, educate people about investing in the stock market. We also have partnership with schools, we have exchange visits, and we have social media campaigns. Okay, you can find out more about this in pseacademy.com.ph. Okay, as part of development, we're one of the smaller exchanges in the region and the world. For me, to be able to develop and become a world-class exchange, we should learn from the bigger exchanges. So I'm doing a lot of collaboration with bigger exchanges. I have a collaboration with Singapore Stock Exchange. I have a collaboration with Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Before, it used to be they were trying to develop an ASEAN Stock Exchange concept, but it never worked because there were too many and different agenda. So now I said we should just go one-on-one, you know. So now we've partnered with Singapore Stock Exchange. We're developing what we call the PSE SGX Stock Connect. What does that mean? It means investors in Singapore, when the brokers open their screen, they will see the price of our shares, and they can buy directly. Tayo naman, all our brokers here can see in the screen the prices of the Singapore stocks, and we can buy directly instead of having to find a broker there. Okay, and I like this project because while I don't think there will be too many Filipinos investing in Singapore stocks, I think we will get a lot of Singapore investors investing in Philippine stocks. So again, that will create additional volume for the local exchange.
That has become operational.
No, we're developing that now because it needs a lot of regulatory approvals. We need an approval from the SEC.
Via the bilateral mode, not the
No, well, just to give an example, the SEC, okay, does not allow any company to sell securities in the Philippines unless it registers with them.
Yes.
Okay, but for the Singapore companies there are not going to register here because so we have to get that exception from SEC that as long as they've already been accredited and registered in Singapore, let's not ask them to register. In the same way, for example, SM Prime or Ayala Land, the regulator there will not require them to register in Singapore. So that's what we're working on, the regulatory approvals.
I see.
We're also developing with Singapore our derivative products. Okay, with Shenzhen Stock Exchange, we have an ongoing discussions with Shenzhen Stock Exchange for the development of our disclosure and surveillance system. Okay, we have an index cooperation project, and we have an index licensing agency services. So again, like I said, for me, for the Philippine Stock Exchange to grow, it must learn from the bigger, their bigger brothers. So for me, this collaboration with other exchanges is very important. What are our programs? What of PSE for the next 3 years? So we hope to be able to have our index futures regulations. We hope to be able to bid for the electricity spot market. We are now undertaking a review and rationalization of all our present listing and disclosure rules, which have not been, changed since the last 10 or 15 years. I want a rationalization review to bring it up to date with what is happening now. We will come up with new indices. Okay, like I said, what is our index now? We only have one index, PSE index. I want to come up with a dividend, PSE dividend index, meaning list of companies that pay the highest dividends. Things like that, okay? We'll have data analytics platforms this is for the investors who will try to make it easier for them to come up with analytical tools to analyze the market so they can invest more. And finally, what's very dear to my heart is that eKYC platform. I want to develop an eKYC platform where a new investor will not have to go to a broker anymore physically to open an account, but do it electronically. If we are able to come up with this eKYC platform, like what we did for the allocation of the IPO shares, I think we can double the number of investors in the next 3 years. It took us 70 years to reach 1,089,000 investors. If we are able to launch it successfully, I think in 3 years' time we can get 4 million investors.
Also, you already have a OSM, diba?
Yes.
So how does that work?
Right now there is OSM. We are trying to make a bid for it, to operate it.
To operate OSM?
Yes, the electricity exchange.
Right now, it's being operated by the
PMC.
Sila
rin.
lang.
What we're proposing is professionalize the running of the exchange to the PSE so that there is transparency. But so we're studying that now.
Kasi right now it's not really that arm's length yung ano. So that's why they're susceptible to charge us price collusion.
I don't want to make any comment.
Anyway, transparency issues. So,
Yes, yes.
Okay.
How far are you in that?
Well, we're studying how, I know they've assigned this to IEMOP, I think, no? But we're studying how we can,
with the Department of Energy.
of the Department of Energy, of course.
So what will that require? Will that require a new law?
No, I think I don't know what the contract is of the present market operator. I think it's temporary, or they're under probation. So we have an opportunity to be able to.
It's being run right now effectively as an SRO. Parang ganun lang.
No, they don't have an SRO. I mean, it's being run, I guess, the way it was being run before. That used to be run by PEMSI. They spun off this group, but it's still the same
Same banana.
Well, I don't want to say that. But I think, the reason we're very interested in this is because even Secretary Kusi is very interested in coming up with an electricity futures market. And the futures market is something that only an exchange would have the, competence and capability to operate.
The whole point is to have that market being run professionally
And transparent.
and in a transparent.
Because in the end, if that's being run professionally in a transparent way, then power cost should go, electricity cost should go down.
Yeah, that's my question. Would that help bring down
Price, eh?
electricity?
It should, because there's transparency in the price. It's like if you're listed in the stock exchange, you have a price transparency in your stock. Why? Because you really have independent markets and buyers and sellers determining the price. It's not you as an owner say, hindi, 3 pesos dapat yan. No, what is the buyer prepared to pay?
Yun yung price discovery will work in the
Price discovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, a roadmap for the future for PSE is basically we're located in a very, we're very fortunate to be in the Philippines because the Philippine economy is one of the fastest growing economy now. We need to come up with more products and services so that there will be more liquidity in the market. Again, the financial inclusion, we're 115 million Filipinos. There is no reason why we only have less than 1.1 million stock market investors. So we need to really go after these Filipinos. Of course, very important for the PSE is investor protection. Because without investor protection, we will lose our credibility. Nobody will invest in the stock market. So in fact, when a company applies for IPO with the PSE, that's our primary consideration is will the investor be protected by investing in this company? So we do a lot of.
Well, look after,
we look at the plans of the company. We look at their officers, their track record, and all that.
Actually, that's what you did before as the chair, the head of the audit committee of the.
No, as chair of the audit committee, I was making sure that all the internal controls and policies of the exchange were being complied with by the employees.
So not on the
Iba yun.
not the company,
okay.
listed companies.
Okay.
And of course, after investor protection, regulatory landscape is very important. We've been working with the SEC to come up with more rules. Kasi what's happening now is it becomes reactionary. I mean, if there is a scam, here comes SEC to run after the company. But by the time, like Kappa, nawala na eh. So we're trying to work with the SEC to make sure that those things don't happen again.
So let's go back to the issue of rights. How many companies have actually? I mean, I've read reports yesterday that SM Prime is interested in establishing its own rate.
Right?
The Ayala Land Inc. and Double Dragon.
Mega World.
Mega
All the real estate companies have talked to us about this. That's why they have been pressuring us to come up with the REIT rules, because they really want to be able to tap on this particular asset class.
Are those rules now being
It's ready, final now. That's what we signed yesterday
okay?
with the SEC and with the BIR.
So the issue of taxation,
Taxation.
It's, before,
ownership limits.
what happened before with taxation, the BIR came up with a regulation that says if you transfer property to a REIT, it is subject to VAT. So, you know, I mean, that's contrary to the law that, you know, tax-free
That had
exchange of
been
property.
removed.
That has been removed by the train law.
By the train. Oh.
So there is a revenue regulation that says, because there is a tax incentive for companies, like I said,
Yeah.
you can deduct the dividends. But there was a BIR regulation that says, okay, the tax benefit you cannot get. You have to put it in escrow for 3 years, because in 3 years' time, only when you reach 67%, we will give you the. So
The tax break.
tax. That's why nobody listed. So again, on the BIR side, they took out that regulation, and on the SEC side, they brought back the minimum public ownership to 33%,
33.
which is what the law called for.
And how many do you think would comply with the 33%?
Well, now I mean, no, it's a new. Now, if you lease a REIT, 33% has to be publicly owned. So you can at least, if you know,
Yun yung threshold.
minimum.
Minimum. Yun ang floor. So, what does it look like from here? I mean, you just signed it yesterday. What does it, going forward, what does it
Well,
look like? I mean,
I personally am very, very optimistic that this is a product long overdue, that there is a need for this kind of asset class, not only for the company that want to lease, but for the investors. I think there will be a big demand. Can you imagine if 90% of the company's earnings will be paid in dividends, rather than putting it in the bank and earning 1% or 2%? You know, it's a good, for me, it's a very good product.
it allows even the small investor to.
Yes, with the PSEi. Yes.
So the companies that have actually, is that this, I saw a report.
No, okay. What will
yesterday.
happen? So the new regulations were just signed yesterday.
Yeah.
I think this will be published in the newspaper of general circulation. Then after 15 days, it becomes effective.
And then,
Yeah,
The
hopefully
ball
we
will
get
go from there.
all the listing applications already.
okay. Apart from the three that have been reported yesterday, are there any more companies?
No, I mean companies. There are many companies that will, I think, avail of the REITs. And we're not talking only of the big companies. I mean, we'd like to target companies in the provinces that have mga 2 or 3 properties, kanya mga family-owned, and they don't have capital anymore. So if they can put these properties to REITs, raise capital, and then develop, some other idle properties.
I mean, you mean as Cebu or an based?
Yes. In
real
fact,
estate
when we go to
company?
Davao in March, we'll be having a special, marketing campaign for REITs, for the companies in Davao.
How do you separate now the good ones from the?
Well, like any company,
Oh.
like any company that applies for IPO,
There are
they
parameters.
file an application to the SEC. The SEC reviews the application, and then when it's approved by the SEC, they file an application with us. I mean, we try to make sure that like I said, investor protection is very important for us.
So the companies that will be applying will have a minimum capital.
Okay.
What kind of guidelines
For
will
you
be?
to be able to avail of the REIT, to take advantage of the REIT, you must have existing properties that's generating income or rental of at least 300 million a year.
300 M.
Not 300.
That's in the guidelines.
Yes, that's in the listing rules of
Listing
PSE.
rules. 300 M. So yun ang threshold mo to be able to participate in that space. Okay. What else? Track record of
Track record of 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
And of course, in the PSE, we have what we call a suitability requirement. We make sure that the proponents are suitable, are people with suitable backgrounds.
It's just like how the banks work now.
Yes, basically.
You know, you just don't sell your or insurance to anybody. They have to be. You have
Yes.
to conform to a particular mode. In other words. Okay, yung tax.
Okay.
So,
yes, go ahead.
About plans for a new trading floor.
No, actually, we just moved to our new trading floor in 2018.
In another part of the country, I mean,
No, I don't think there is a need for that yet because now everything is electronic.
electronic.
I mean, our brokers in Cebu, Davao can trade immediately, with our system, there's no need for physical stores or shops anymore now.
So do you see a time when the trading floor at the PSE would be entirely electronic?
Actually, when we were building the building,
Mm.
we had no plans to have a trading floor. You don't need a trading floor anymore now.
Mm.
If you go to Singapore, to Japan, there are no more trading floors kasi everything's electronic. You connect, everybody can connect to our trading engine, our trading platform. But when we were building this, our broker said, no, we still want a floor,
Yan ang pinagawa nun eh. Di ba?
That's why we
Manila,
built a
marami.
floor. And actually, it's smaller than what we had the last time. Because I said we have 130 brokers. Only 80 have spaces on the floor. They just want to guess. Siguro yung camaraderie na lagi nila nakikita yung mga kaibigan nila. But, 50 brokers are totally operating from outside. So there's no more need for a trading floor.
So, can I just ask you on the outlook on the market? I mean, kasi di ba,
Well,
the global output is, di ba,
Okay.
sabi ng IMF, global growth will be much lower this year than
correct.
than last.
But also, I mean, if you look at the IMF and the World Bank, ADB projections,
Japan is
they're still projecting our GDP to be more than 6%.
6%.
How many countries have they projected it? Not more than 5, I think. So we are still in that very sweet spot of having we're in a growth trajectory with a 6+ GDP.
that goes for the
Our
half of
population, is a very young population.
that goes for the 50% of the investors that are in the
Local.
yeah.
Right.
What about the global guys? The foreign
Well,
guys?
okay.
India, for example. is
Number
not
one,
going. Japan is
the
not.
foreign investors, number one, what they look for is, of course, confidence, and two, products. They need new products.
So
That's why we are,
this
coming up.
explains why.
Yes,
How do you see the market? Say 11, 10 months forward.
Okay,
Or
like
rest
I
of the
said,
year, kumbaga.
as PSE, I mean, I am not qualified to make a forecast on where
Based
the
on,
market will
on
be.
what we know today.
But even on what I know, I'm not qualified to make a forecast. But I have seen the forecasts of people who are qualified to make a forecast. I'm talking about, asset managers, investment houses, and I've seen their forecasts. They range anywhere from 8,005 or 6. Meron pa nagto-forecast 9,200 by the end of this year. Oh well, we hope. Sabi ko sana magdilang ang health sila.
Last year we tried reaching 8,200.
Last year, the projection for the end of 2019 was about 8,400, 84. We didn't get there. We closed at 7.7, no? 7.8.
7.8.
So you can never really,
That had to do with the budget, the delay in the budget.
that's one because the GDP, and then
No interest rates also?
and then remember the inflation towards the end of.
Yeah, kasi it moderated from peak of 6 something ba? And then it went back
Now we're back at the 2.5 level.
because of the corrective measures that have been
We
implemented.
have a very obviously proactive central bank BSP governor.
Yeah, the economic measures.
I think they're doing a very good job.
Yeah. That's one,
So on that note, I
Okay.
guess we would have liked to have you an hour more, but
Anyway, thank you for having me. I hope I've been able to
Very much. It's an interesting presentation, and I hope the viewers have learned a lot from this.
Thank you. You can let me know anytime if I can be of help.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
See ya. Sir.
Can I call you for comment?